That Egyptian phrase where you die twice. The first time is when your body dies. The second time, and most important time to me, is when the last person who remembers you dies as well. Don't let that time period be short. Leave your legacy for a long time. And in order to do that, you need to fulfill yourself and live to your fullest potential. This is a real one where we're seeing on the ground death of innocent victims. Husbands, wives, moms, dads, children, babies, infants. Sad situation. But pulling it back, like, how are you leaving your impact? Stuff like that hasn't hit to America yet. But we think because we live in a modern technological society with iPads, iPhones, and Android and computers and AI and almost a brain chip, that these old rituals have gone away. What makes you think they've gone away? What evidence do you have that they have gone away other than you don't see them anymore? Well, if you are part of that, let's call it clan, that is into these mass sacrifices, would you want it to be publicly known that you still do it to keep your power or grow your power? Yo, what's up, everybody? This is the End-to-End Podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Yun Win. And as my friends affectionately call me the Ninja or Prolific Ninja, because my fans are my friends, you can call me Ninja too. This is the End-to-End Podcast, the Alpha to the Omega, the beginning to the end, talking about life, motivation, self-improvement, success, drive, and offering you morsels in this all-you-can-eat buffet called life. Back in the studio on a Tuesday in Houston, Texas. Listen, this episode I had in mind, and my mind is actually just running 1,000 miles an hour because of all the events in the Middle East and what happened there. So, we'll see how this one rolls off. But I do want to begin this episode, as I begin every single day. When I wake up, I give an expression of gratitude to the universe, to God, thankful for what I have and thankful for another day awake on this planet. So in similar fashion, I want to thank you, my audience members who have liked, commented, followed, shared, subscribed, left reviews. Thank you so much. And in particular, I want to thank one special audience member, fan, who has been sharing my stuff. And I noticed this, and I reached out. Her name is Ebony Reinhardt. Ebony, thank you specifically for sharing, the reels and everything like that, supporting and being a fan of the show, spreading the word. We got something special coming out for you on your way. So, but to everyone else, thank you so much. We can't grow this show without you. And because if you're new to the show, I do this, what I say, on my own dime and on my own time. I have a whole crew that's growing that I've hired to help me do this. And so there's a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of investment involved in getting this show to you. So in order to grow the show, which is, and reach our mission, which is to inspire billions of lives across the planet in a positive way, we have to share the show. That's the only way we get the message out. So I like to say, if your knowledge swole in this episode or any other episode that you've listened to, any of the reels, if your knowledge swole, share the show. That's how we grow. So please do share the show. So day 25 of 75 hard, a third of the way there, going on, just catching some really good rhythm now. A little bit exhausted, body's a little worn down, but we're pushing through. And as I mentioned in the last two episodes, I'm doing this now to get my mind, my body, my spirituality, my focus zoned into the end of the year, into the beginning of the next year, so that gap between me and everyone else who's letting off the gas and just kind of winding down for the year, that delta, that difference is going to allow me to be even more competitive and gain a better advantage going into 2024. So I highly encourage you to do the same. But what's throwing me off today is, obviously this stuff going on in the Middle East, devastating and disgusting, man. I'm not taking a side. In fact, I don't think really anybody should be taking a side, because we all lose in that situation. Humanity has lost. I'm seeing reels and pictures and videos of, dead babies in rubble on both sides, dead people, innocent husbands, wives, children, sisters, brothers, cousins. I mean, innocent people in the hundreds, maybe even in the thousands, based on what you can believe that's being posted on, these social feeds. It's just devastating, and humanity loses. And there's really no winner in this situation, regardless of what side you're on. Um, it's just a terrible, terrible sequence of world events that I'm just disgusted by, because we're supposed to be living enlightened, better lives, striving to improve ourselves, our family, and our neighbors and our friends. And so for this to just happen like that, I have a lot of questions about that. But from a higher view, it's just devastating and disgusting. And so a little bit emotionally off. I have a 5-year-old daughter, 16-year-old son. It's just like, imagine if that, you put yourself in that scenario, and to see these vivid images that I'm as skeptical as anyone else. I wear a tinfoil hat, more often than not. But it's hard to believe that these videos could have been fabricated or CGI'd or faked or whatever. So if you believe what you see, and which I have a very hard time to believe what I see, but in this particular case, dead babies pulled out of rubble. It's just devastating to my heart as a human, as a spiritual being. And so I don't think anybody wins, regardless of what side. You had this attack by Hamas, into this rave party allegedly that was, across the border and taking out hundreds of lives. And now you have the retaliation, this carpet bombing and strategic bombing of Gaza. Like just nobody wins. In death, no one wins, especially in war. Nobody wins. So, but the takeaway from that, as related to this podcast, to me, this is a business, self-improvement, uplifting, enlightening podcast. So, there's a couple things to think about in this situation. Is number one, evil exists. Evil exists. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later in this podcast in a kind of really tinfoil hat kind of way, that evil does exist in this world. The other thing to take away is that your circumstance can change in a split second. Now, me having the perspective, having been physician trained, also, as an attorney doing personal injury litigation, I see routinely how life can change for the worse, just like that. I've been in this situation in the ER during my surgical rotation in Dallas, where, someone's been shot up, 7 times in the abdomen, and we're trying to save his life, and things change just like that. Working as a personal injury litigator, in these car crashes where, we have one where a guy rear-ended a dump truck, dead immediately, just like that. Lives can change. Family life can change. Your relative, your loved one, whatever, it can change just like that. So when this thing happened this weekend, I was reminded, interestingly enough, I was listening to a podcast. Oh man, I forget the name. Short versions of history of blank, for example, I think it was. But it was a short version of history of Tutankhamun, King Tut. A podcast about the Egyptian life of the Pharaoh king. But there was an expression in the show that really kind of sunk into me, which was people die twice, right? You die twice. And I'm paraphrasing what this Egyptian expression but it's you die when your physical being dies. That's the first time you die. The second time you die is when the last person who remembers you dies. Then your legacy dies. Then you're really dead. It's as if you never existed ever. Now, I'm going to repeat that again. You die the first time when your physical body dies. You're buried, cremated, whatever. Your second death occurs when the last person who remembers you dies. Then it's as if you never existed. Right? And seeing the events in the Middle East just reminded me again of this quote and how stark it was to me as to why are you living your life? For what purpose are you living your life? When now, through global events, you can see things can change just like that. Right? We live in this perceived world of security and safety, and I'll just go about my day, nothing bad will happen. Clock in, clock out. This, that, and the other, just our routine. Monday blends into Tuesday, blends into Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and all of a sudden 10 years have gone by, that kind of situation. But the reality is that it can change just like that. So why are you living the life that you're living right now? How long, if you living in the framework of that Egyptian quote, again, you die first when you physically die. You die second when the last person who remembers you dies. How long is that going to last for you as you're living your life right now? How long? What impact are you making to those around you? Right? You have your, I forget what episode. It was very early on when we were recording this podcast about the different circles of relationships that you have. How are you providing value or positive influence on that innermost circle, or the circle of people around you, or the acquaintances or strangers, or the world at large? You see, for me, it's like this podcast, right? By doing this podcast, this message can last for multiple generations. Somebody listens to it. Hey, I remember that guy, End-to-End Podcast. They tell their friends. That friend tells their kid. The kid turns to the podcast. So arguably, I'm doing this to build my legacy for multiple generations by doing this podcast. And you're helping me by sharing it. But why are you living the life that you're living? Are you living it to the fullest so that that second death takes a long time? Or are you going to be erased from all memory early? And that doesn't require a lot of money to do. I mean, this is a success podcast, but it has nothing to do with that type of legacy. Has nothing to do with the amount of money you make. Obviously, we're being motivational, drive, find your goals, and etc. Business kind of podcast. But legacy building isn't just about money. It's about impact and influence and inspiration and, providing value to those around you. The more value and the more people you can provide it to through who you are or what you want to do or your goals or whatever, money notwithstanding, that's that legacy you're building. That's the legacy you're building. Now, obviously, if you're providing really good value, you should get paid for it. And so you're going to build money on the way. But the point being is that life can change real quick. This situation in the Middle East, and who knows? I have a suspicion this is one of the intermediary steps to a global conflict, a World War III. Mentally, I'm preparing for that. Actually, physically, I'm preparing for that too. Because you never know how bad it's going to get. This is a real situation. Like, we didn't get this kind of footage out of Ukraine, which, don't get me started on that. This is a real one where we're seeing on the ground death of innocent victims. Husbands, wives, moms, dads, children, babies, infants. Sad situation. But pulling it back, like, how are you leaving your impact? Stuff like that hasn't hit to America yet. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but it could very well happen real quick. Really quick. And so there is a sense of urgency. Our world as we know now may be flipped upside down just like that. So how are you leaving your impact? How are you making your influence? How are you making your time on earth as a spiritual being known to resonate for however long you want it to resonate? It's a question to ask yourself, right? This podcast hopefully is providing you some, checkpoints or guideposts on how to build that legacy. But that's on you. It's on you. And I'm going to repeat that phrase again, that Egyptian phrase where you die twice. The first time is when your body dies. The second time, and most important time to me, is when the last person who remembers you dies as well. Don't let that time period be short. Leave your legacy for a long time. And in order to do that, you need to fulfill fulfill yourself in the live to your fullest potential, fullest controllable potential. That's the expression we use here. Part of the goal is to help you live to your fullest controllable potential, because we are all unique spiritual beings. We all have special gifts to bring to this world. Don't let societal structure or what you were taught in school prevent you from unleashing your gift, whatever, however unique it is. And everybody's got a unique gift. When you are able to unleash that to the world, now you're living to your fullest controllable potential. Find that gift and let it out. And don't let that second death happen so quickly. Let yourself, let your name, let your life represent something. Let it be known so that people, the more people that can remember you, the longer that legacy is, because then it takes longer for that last person to die that second death and erase your memory from existence forever. Right? Now I'm going to go back to that first point right now, which is evil exists in this world. Now, this might sound a little crazy, a little rabbit hole, tinfoil, whatever you want to call it, Wizard of Oz, man behind the curtain kind of stuff. So if you're not interested in that, fast forward to the end of the show. But if you want to hear my thoughts on it, stick with me here. But if you know me, if you've known me over this past year and a half of doing this show, I don't think like everybody else does. That's my unique gift. But that's okay. I've embraced it and bringing this to you. But you have to understand. Here's your chance to fast forward to the end. If not, stick with me. If I'd had a tinfoil hat, I'd put it on. Note to self, put on a tinfoil hat. Get a tinfoil hat. Evil exists in this world. That's without question. Evil exists in this world. And why is that? Why is that? I'm not a biblical scholar. I don't claim to be one. I'm not a religious student. I don't claim to be one. This is just all personal views. Personal views of mine. Personal, views. Some of them are beliefs. It remains to be seen. I'm going to believe it until I'm shown evidence otherwise. That's the way I think. And a positive optimist. Okay. Evil exists in this world. Because the reality is if you're a biblical person, there's, God, Jesus, and the devil. Well, the Bible says that the devil was cast out of heaven. Well, where would that be? If not this plane, this three-dimensional earth. So the reality is that the devil, Satan, however you want to call it, is around us all this time because we are actually on the realm that he is on. God is in heaven, if you believe in heaven. The misnomer is there's a hell that is below us in the ground. But this is that ground. This is the devil's playground. Look at what's being touted in social media and in pop culture. All the satanic reference and the pedophilia and the teaching third graders on all these sexual things. What is that if not but the devil's work? That's where we are. That's the playground right now. So you have to understand that we don't live in this safe, secure society. Evil is always around. I would suggest to you that evil is abundantly around. Okay? And that's where the inner strength, the inner discipline, 75 hard, enlightening oneself, helps you raise above this playground, helps you get above it so you can see that there is this evil and protect yourself and your loved ones from it. Okay, that's the original initial premise. Now, why do these mass deaths occur? All throughout history. Like you go way back to, Incan, Mayan, pre-Jesus, whatever you believe in, way thousands and thousands and thousands of millennia back. Why has there always been mass deaths? Why have this always occurred? Right? This is where it might get really, really wonky, but stick with me. In those times, right, especially around, if you look at in modern society, episodes of mass deaths, when do they typically occur in a global way? Typically in the fall, right? 9/11, the Las Vegas shooting, this particular incident this weekend, Hawaii. All of these things happened towards the fall or into the fall, where there were news and occurrences of mass deaths. I'm not talking about a random shooting at the mall or something like that, or gang violence. I'm talking about mass deaths that are like global news in nature. Why does that happen in the fall? What happens in the fall? Well, fall is typically harvest time, right? Harvest, Thanksgiving, the cornucopia full of fruits, and you're wanting a good harvest in the fall to sustain you through the winter back into the spring and summer, right? It's that cyclical thing. The world, time works in cycles. Now, under that premise, think back to, I don't even know, like call it Egyptian, Incan, Mayan society, whatever. What would they normally do to guarantee a large harvest? They would round up, the non-indigenous people or the indigenous people and sacrifice them. In fact, I think it's even in the Bible, God calls for sacrifice for whatever, a lamb or whatever, a firstborn, whatever. There's sacrifices been around for eons and ages and eons. So when you correlate these mass death occurrences in the fall, why is that? Why do we still have that? Now, putting on like a double tinfoil hat, imagine you are part of the bloodline for thousands of millennia of the ruling class of people that were back in the day with the Incans and the Mayans, past all that were doing the sacrifice. And you've had that power since all that time in history. I should be pointing this way. All that point in history. And you've amassed that much power to current day. Your bloodline has amassed all that power to today. Right? Traditions are passed on. There would be no reason to alter anything that you do or your family does if you're continuing to amass power. And what do powerful people actually want? More power. So why would you change a single thing about potentially mass sacrifice to guarantee a good harvest? Harvest not in fruit, but harvest as in more power. I'm not saying this is happening. I have no idea. I have no clue. I have no basis to suggest this is even a modicum of truth to it. This is just what I feel, what I'm thinking, what's going on, random thoughts in my head. But we think because we live in a modern technological society with iPads, iPhones, and Android and computers and AI and almost a brain chip, that these old rituals have gone away. What makes you think they've gone away? What evidence do you have that they have gone away other than you don't see them anymore? Well, if you are part of that, let's call it clan, that is into these mass sacrifices, would you want it to be publicly known that you still do it to keep your power or grow your power? Of course not. But you would make it happen in more subtle ways that are not so obvious. but you still get the result you're looking for. A sacrifice to whoever you believe in to get more power, your harvest of power. Call me crazy, call me whatever. I have no evidence this is truthful. None at all. But as I say, the dots are always there. It's up to you to connect them. Whatever image you want to make. And this is just how my brain is connecting these dots. I think about it. I say, man, why? I'm just in my mind, one random thought that happened. I'm like, why are all these mass deaths happening in late July, August, September, October? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, harvest is in November. And then in my mind, I'm like, if you're back in the old days, I mean, it's illustrated in our history books where in the pyramid, what was that Mel Gibson movie? Oh, man. The indigenous Indian movie, there were no words in it, and it's a guy getting chased through the jungle. Oh, God, what is that? Anyway, look it up. But the scene starts off, he gets captured. His tribe gets captured. They're pulled over. They're hustled over to where one of the tribes is at the top of the pyramid, and they're chopping heads off, letting them roll down the pyramid steps as an offering to the sun god for a bountiful harvest. What makes you think that belief is gone? That it just disappeared? That it no longer exists just because we're in a modern technological society? Something to think about. Leave your comments. I'd like to hear them. Does it make sense? Am I way off base? I have no idea. But it's just a thought that keeps resonating in my head. That these rituals, in fact, still exist somewhere, somehow, some way to ensure that those in power stay in power. In fact, get more power. Because if those rituals are what you believe to have brought you, your family, your bloodline, all this power to begin with, why would you change? Why would you just stop? You wouldn't. So why does it still exist? Evil exists, my friends. Evil does exist. And here we are in this podcast is to help build your armor spiritually, physically, mentally. Build that armor so you can rise above this evil and protect yourself. Not just protect yourself, but rise above. Right? But in order to rise above, you must recognize that it exists. So just some tinfoil hat, a double tinfoil hat today. I'm going to take it off and get us back to the podcast. So yeah, you got to learn to leave that legacy. Build yourself up. Go for it. Don't let that second death in that Egyptian quote come too soon. All of us got to die that first time. But all of us don't have to die that second time. In fact, think about it. We're still talking about King Tut now. So arguably, he's still alive through that second cycle. Right? So that could be you. It could be you and your legacy. But understand, life can change in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, just like that. My prayers go out to all of those people in the Middle East, the innocent babies especially, man. It just rips my heart out. Prayers go out to everybody who is not a part of the ruling class that caused this to happen, who are just living their daily lives trying to get by, and all of a sudden, they're dealing with tragedy and, just devastation. So prayers to all of them. Prayers that we bring peace or have peace sooner than later, less death, more happiness. But to me, it doesn't seem like we're on that direction. It seems like we're headed in the very, very opposite direction. But that being said, it doesn't mean we can't pull together as a community of humanity to not let it happen. We can still not let it happen. With that, again, thank you. I'm going to close the episode like I close my days. As you know, if you're new to the show, or as you know, I end the day giving a thanks, an expression of gratitude to the universe, to my faith, my spirituality, for another strong day. So I want to thank you all for listening to this episode. Again, complete value exchange. If you found this valuable in any way, made you, thought-provoking, or made you think, please do comment, follow, like, share, subscribe. Leave us a review on Apple Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps us rank to get this message out more and spread the word. So, as I say, be great today. Be even more grateful. Life can change in a second. Build your legacy. Looking forward to bringing you another episode very, very soon. Thank you very much. What's up,